She wanted nothing but silence. No eyes, no questions. Just peace. Then he appeared. He didn't ask to join her. He simply did. And in that single unsettling moment, the night changed everything she thought she knew. Hello, Moonlight family. Welcome back to Moonlight Romance Stories. If you're new here, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic stories filled with betrayal, power, and transformation. And to all my loyal viewers, thank you for always lighting up the Moonlight world with your support. Let's dive back into the story. The diner clock ticked like a heartbeat. Steady, patient, almost too loud in the stillness. The hum of the old refrigerator was the only sound that dared exist beside her. Ilara sat by the window, spoon tracing lazy circles in her untouched coffee. This was her sanctuary, the one place where no one asked questions, where the world stayed outside and her ghosts kept their distance. Then the bell above the door chimed. Once. She didn't look up. She never did. Not until a shadow fell across her table, long and deliberate. A man slid into the seat opposite her without a word. No greeting, no hesitation. Just that calm, unnerving smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ilara frowned, her fingers tightening around her cup. That seat's taken. By who? He asked softly. His voice was smooth, too composed, too knowing. My peace, she said, trying to sound indifferent. He chuckled, not mockingly, but with a strange familiarity, as if he'd heard that exact line before. Still guarding your silence, I see. Something in her chest tightened. She studied his face. Pale eyes, sharp jaw, a presence that felt both foreign and remembered. I don't know you, she said firmly. Are you sure? His tone carried a weight that made her stomach twist. Then quietly he added, You still can't sleep past 3:07 a.m., can you? Her spoon clattered against the saucer. The air in the diner thickened. No one else seemed to notice. The waitress froze mid-step. The hum of the lights dulled, as if the world itself was holding its breath. How do you know that? Ilara whispered. He leaned forward, his gaze steady, unblinking. Because you used to tell me, he said. Before everything went wrong. She felt her pulse quicken. This isn't funny. I'm not here to joke, he murmured, reaching into his coat. Her breath hitched. But instead of a weapon, he placed an old photograph on the table. It was worn, sepia-toned, and impossibly real. Ilara stared at it, herself standing beside him, years younger. Yet he looked exactly the same. The lights flickered. Somewhere outside, thunder rumbled. She looked up, fear widening her eyes. Who are you? He smiled faintly, his voice barely above a whisper as he leaned closer. I've been looking for you, he said, for a very long time. Ilara's pulse thundered in her ears. His words, I've been looking for you for a very long time, looped like a haunting melody she couldn't silence. The hum of the diner returned, faintly out of rhythm, as though reality was trying to reassemble itself. She rose abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. You're insane, she hissed. Stay away from me. Lucian didn't follow. He simply sat there, calm as winter. You can run if it helps, he said, voice quiet but cutting through the noise. But you've tried that before. Ilara froze mid-step. Tried that before? The thought gnawed at her sanity. She forced herself toward the exit, fumbling for her coat, but a sound stopped her. A soft thud. She turned. Lucian had placed the photograph back on the table. The same one she'd glimpsed moments ago. But now the edges glimmered faintly under the diner's dull lights, as if the image itself breathed. I don't want your tricks, she snapped. No trick, he murmured. Just a reminder. Against her better judgment, she leaned closer. The image showed a little girl with her same eyes, same dimples, standing beside him in a field of wildflowers. He hadn't changed. Not a wrinkle. Not a trace of time. That's impossible, she whispered. That's me. Lucian's gaze softened. You were 9. You used to bring me blackberries by the river. Her mind reeled. You expect me to believe that? That you haven't aged in, 20 years? He tilted his head slightly. It's been longer. Ilara's chest tightened. The diner lights flickered again, this time dimming completely. Only the neon sign from outside bathed them in a blood-red hue. When the lights returned, the waitress who'd been wiping tables was gone. So was the cook behind the counter. The entire diner was empty. What's happening? She whispered. Lucian's eyes flickered silver for a brief moment. You've stepped back into the part of the story you forgot. Fear clawed at her throat. I don't know you, she said again, but her voice trembled now. He stood, sliding the photograph toward her. Then look closer. Ilara hesitated, her hand shaking as she picked it up. The paper was warm, almost alive beneath her fingertips. She turned it over slowly and froze. There, in faded ink, was a handwritten date. October 19th, 1983. Her lips parted. No. Lucian's voice was barely audible, almost tender. You weren't born until 1992, were you? The air grew cold. Her breath fogged. The world seemed to tilt. Ilara stumbled back, her heart racing as the photograph slipped from her grip, landing face down on the floor. As she bent to pick it up, she saw something new written beneath the date, in her own handwriting. Don't trust him. Ilara burst out of the diner, the night air sharp against her trembling skin. The photograph still burned in her palm. Don't trust him. The words looped in her mind like an echo she couldn't silence. The parking lot was nearly empty. She hurried to her car, keys shaking in her hand. Every shadow looked too alive, every sound stretched thin. Behind her, the diner's sign flickered once, then went dark completely. She started the engine and drove. Fast. Too fast. The empty highway swallowed her headlights as the rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier, each drop smearing her reflection in the windshield. A flash of headlights appeared in her mirror. One car. Black. No plates visible. Ilara slowed. The car slowed too. She turned right. It turned right. Her chest tightened. She took a sudden left, then another. The black sedan followed, steady and deliberate. Not again, she whispered, pressing harder on the gas. Not this. Her phone buzzed in the passenger seat. An unknown number. Against instinct, she answered. Ilara, said a calm voice. She nearly swerved. Lucian. You shouldn't drive so fast in the rain, he said gently. Her heart pounded. Where are you? Closer than you think. She threw the phone onto the seat, fear clawing at her ribs. Her house finally came into view. The one safe place left. She pulled into the driveway, hands trembling, lungs aching for air. The black sedan stopped a few houses away. Headlights dimmed, engine idled, waiting. Ilara dashed inside, locked every door, every window. Her reflection in the glass looked ghostly, wild-eyed. She tried calling the police, voice shaking. There's a car following me. Black, no plates. They asked for the number. She gave her address. A pause. Ma'am, the dispatcher said slowly, there's no vehicle registered on your street. Ilara's blood ran cold. She moved to the living room, peering through the curtains. The car was still there. She could see it, plain as day. But the police couldn't. She ended the call, panic rising. She turned toward the security monitor on her wall, the camera feed from her porch and driveway. Static flickered, then cleared. There it was, the black sedan, parked under the streetlight. But something was off. The driver's door was open. The figure standing beside it had no reflection in the rain puddle below. Ilara leaned closer to the screen, pulse racing. She froze the footage. Rewound. Played again. The streetlight shimmered. But the man's shadow was gone. Lucian's face. Calm. Smiling. watching. Only, he wasn't there in the reflection of the glass door behind him. Her throat tightened. "What are you?" she whispered to no one. Suddenly the screen flickered violently, the image distorted, colors bleeding, shapes stretching. Then the feed went black. For a moment, silence. Then, a faint creak echoed from the hallway. Ilara turned slowly toward her front door. The lock she'd turned moments ago began to twist by itself, metal groaning. Her breath caught. The handle moved. The footage blinked back to life for 1 second, just long enough to show her front door slowly swinging open, before everything cut to static. A sharp gasp tore from her throat. Ilara jolted upright in bed, drenched in sweat, her sheets tangled around her legs like vines. Morning sunlight leaked through half-closed curtains, soft but wrong, too bright, too normal for how she felt. Her head pounded. The last thing she remembered was the door, creaking open, the camera, cutting to static, then nothing. Her alarm clock blinked 9:42 a.m. The last timestamp she recalled on the footage was 9:42 p.m. 12 hours. Gone. She stumbled out of bed, disoriented. Her house looked untouched, coffee mug still on the table, her coat draped on the chair, the front door now firmly shut. But something in the air was off, colder, heavier, as if the house itself had held its breath all night. "Ilara," she whispered to herself, gripping the countertop. What happened? Then she noticed her wrist. The skin was blistered and red, shaped not like a wound but a symbol. Curved lines crossing in a spiral, ancient and deliberate. It pulsed faintly beneath her skin, as though alive. She touched it. Pain seared through her arm. The symbol flared with light for a heartbeat, then dimmed. Her vision blurred. What is this? Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number again. She hesitated, staring at it as it vibrated against the wood. She finally answered, her voice trembling. "Hello?" Static. Then a faint whisper. "You shouldn't have opened it." Ilara froze. "Lucien?" Silence. Then a low hum, like wind moving through empty halls. "Do you remember the mark?" the voice asked. "What mark?" "The one you wore before." She dropped the phone, heart hammering. Before. That word again, like a key to a door she didn't want to find. She rushed to the bathroom, flicked on the light, and searched her reflection. Her pupils dilated, her skin pale. Behind her, for a split second, she saw a shadow. Tall, still, watching. She spun around. Nothing. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time. "Check your footage." Hands shaking, she turned on her laptop, pulling up her home camera feed from the night before. The file was corrupted, half of it static. But one frame loaded, her standing at the open door, frozen mid-motion. Someone stood outside, blurred, tall, his features indistinct. He raised a hand toward her wrist. A faint light connected them. Then darkness. Ilara covered her mouth, horrified. "What did you do to me?" She rewound the clip. At the final frame before blackout, she saw something scrawled on the doorframe. The same symbol now burned into her skin. Her stomach twisted. She turned toward the actual door. The mark was there, etched deep into the wood, blackened like it had been burned from within. Her phone rang again. Same number. She didn't want to answer him, but her hand moved on its own. She pressed it to her ear, breath shaking. Lucien's voice came through, calm, hollow, almost regretful. "Ilara, you opened the door." Her eyes filled with dread. "What does that mean?" A pause. The faint sound of something creaking echoed through the speaker. Wood bending, walls sighing. Then his final words came, low and final. "Now," he whispered. "It's too late to close it." Ilara sat frozen on the kitchen floor, her phone still pressed to her ear, Lucien's final words echoing like a curse. "It's too late to close it." Too late for what? Too late for who? She forced herself to move, wiping the sweat from her brow. Her mind felt splintered, fragments of memory and fear colliding. She needed answers, something concrete, something human. The mark on her wrist throbbed again, faintly glowing under her skin. She grabbed her laptop, opened a search window, and typed the only words that made sense. The man who doesn't age. At first, the results were harmless. Urban legends, ghost stories, conspiracy threads. But one link stood out. The Watcher Files, forum for those who've seen him. The site was old, buried deep under layers of dark web security. Her fingers trembled as she clicked through threads titled, "The Stranger at the Cafe, He Knew My Dreams," "The Man with No Reflection." Each post told the same story. A stranger who appeared knew personal details and then, nothing. The users vanished mid-conversation, their profiles deleted. Only one remained active. Username, Survivor47. Ilara sent a message. "He came to me too. Said I opened something. Please, I need to know who he is." The reply came instantly. "Meet me. No cameras, no phones. Old train yard, 7 p.m. Her breath hitched. Finally, someone who knew. Night fell heavy and cold. The train yard was deserted, shrouded in mist and rusting silence. Ilara's footsteps echoed on the gravel. A man stepped from behind a rail car, lean, nervous, clutching a file folder. His eyes darted around constantly. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said. "Neither should you," Ilara replied. "Tell me who he is." The man exhaled shakily. "He's not a man. He's something older. They call him the Watcher. He finds people like you, the ones marked." He pointed to her wrist. "That symbol? It's ancient. Means gatekeeper. You didn't open a door, Ilara. You are the door." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" He looked past her suddenly, eyes widening. "We're not alone." A low rumble shook the ground. Metal groaned. A bright flash erupted from the far end of the yard. Then an explosion. The shockwave threw Ilara backward into the dirt. When the ringing in her ears faded, the man was gone. Smoke and fire licked the edges of the rail car. She stumbled forward, coughing, calling out, but only the crackle of flames answered. Then she saw him, Lucian, standing beyond the smoke, watching her. His face unreadable. She blinked and he vanished into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance. The paper trembled in Ilara's grip, the words, "You're the key, Ilara. Run," searing into her mind like fire. The wind from the burning railcar whipped her hair across her face as she staggered away, clutching the note like a lifeline. Sirens screamed closer. She had to disappear. Now. By the time the first responders reached the scene, she was gone, lost in the fog-drenched streets of the city. Her thoughts fractured like broken glass. The Watcher, the mark, the door, the key. Back in her apartment, everything felt wrong. The lights flickered. The air was heavy, humming, as if some invisible force had followed her home. She locked the door, turned off every light, and sank into the couch, trying to steady her breath. That's when the whispers started. Soft at first, like echoes from another room. Her own voice among them. "You've been here before. He's always been with you. Remember?" Her vision blurred. The room around her shifted. For a split second, she wasn't in her apartment anymore, but in a candle-lit chamber, walls of stone, the air thick with incense and dust. She saw herself, or someone wearing her face, dressed in dark silk, standing beside Lucien. His eyes were the same, calm, ancient, endless. He took her hand in his and whispered, "Your soul opens the gates between worlds." Then a flash of light, and the chamber dissolved into darkness. Ilara gasped and jolted upright on the couch. Her heart thundered. The mark on her wrist was glowing faintly, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. She grabbed her phone and recorded it, proof that she wasn't losing her mind. But the moment she hit record, the glow faded, leaving nothing but bare skin. "Am I remembering?" she whispered. She turned to her bookshelf. A box sat there, small and wooden, something she'd had since childhood. It had always been locked, no key ever found. Her mother once said it came from someone who wanted her safe. Her pulse quickened. She fetched a letter opener, prying the box's lock open with trembling hands. The latch gave way with a soft click. Inside, wrapped in old velvet, was a ring, silver, ornate, etched with the same ancient symbol that marked her wrist, and next to it, a faint shimmer, like a trick of light. She leaned closer. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw Lucian's reflection hovering above the ring. His lips moved, silent words she couldn't hear. Then, without warning, pain shot through her wrist, and the mark burned crimson. Her vision split again, flashes of fire, temples, and blood. Lucian calling her name across centuries. The apartment lights flickered violently, plunging her into darkness. When they steadied, she wasn't alone. The faint scent of rain and smoke filled the room. A voice behind her, low, familiar, unshakable, murmured, "Now you remember why you were never meant to open that box?" Ilara turned slowly, the ring still in her hand, and saw Lucian standing in her living room, unchanged, eyes glowing faintly. On his finger was the same ring, identical to hers. Ilara froze, her back pressed against the couch, the silver ring clenched tight in her fist. Lucian stood mere feet away, his presence bending the air, calm but heavy, like a storm holding its breath. The faint glow in his eyes flickered, reflecting the pulse of the symbol burning faintly on her wrist. "Don't be afraid," he said quietly. But his voice, smooth, deep, unearthly, only made her heart race faster. "What are you?" she demanded, her tone trembling between fury and disbelief. "What is all of this? You've been following me, you've been trying to protect you," he interrupted, his words carrying weight that made the lights hum. "You opened the box. The ring remembers, even if you don't." She shook her head. "This is insane. You can't protect someone by stalking them. You dropped a photo of me before I was even born." Lucian stepped closer, and as he did, something strange happened. Shadows bent toward him like drawn by invisible gravity. His form seemed to flicker between worlds. Human one moment, ethereal the next. "I am not what you think," he said finally. "I'm not human. I'm a watcher. One of the few who walk between your world and what lies beyond it." Ilara felt the air leave her lungs. "A watcher?" He nodded slowly, bound to one soul through all her lives, to guide her, to guard her, until she fulfills the promise she made. She backed away. "What promise? I never made any promise to you." Lucian's expression softened. Sorrow flickered behind his calm mask. "No, not you. The first you." Her thoughts spun. Images flashed again in her mind. Temples, fire, vows whispered in a forgotten tongue. The woman in silk. Her. "You mean, that was me?" she whispered. "Yes," Lucian said. "You broke the vow that night, when you chose love over duty. The seal was shattered. The door opened between realms and chaos spilled through. You died, but the door stayed open. I was bound to follow your soul until the cycle was complete, until you remembered." Ilara's pulse thundered in her ears. "So this mark, this ring, all of this, is the residue of that bond," he finished. "The mark links us. The ring is what you swore with, and now that you've found it again, the cycle is restarting." She could barely breathe. Restarting? What does that mean? Lucian's eyes glowed brighter, like embers in the dark. "It means both our worlds are on borrowed time." A chill slithered down her spine. "You're saying my dreams, my hallucinations, they're real?" "They're memories bleeding through," Lucian said. "You opened the door once and now it's stirring again. The others, The ones you saw on that forum were echoes, remnants of souls touched by the breach. Every cycle draws it closer. Ilara's voice cracked. And if I don't fulfill this promise? Lucian's eyes met hers, steady, sorrowful, infinite. Then both worlds, yours and mine, will fall into the same void you unleashed centuries ago. Silence stretched between them. Outside, thunder rolled, slow, ominous, almost deliberate. Ilara tried to speak, but her voice barely formed words. What happens if I fail again? Lucian stepped forward, close enough that she could see the faint shimmer of light beneath his skin, as though he was made of fractured starlight, barely held in human shape. His voice was soft, almost tender, but it carried the weight of eternity. If you fail again, he said, both our worlds die. A violent tremor shook the room. The lights exploded, plunging everything into blackness. And when Ilara's eyes adjusted, Lucian was gone. But etched across her wall, glowing faintly in the dark, were 6 ancient symbols, forming what looked like the outline of a door. The symbols still glowed faintly on Ilara's wall, humming with an energy that made the air feel electric. She reached out, but the moment her fingertips grazed them, the lights flared, searing white, then vanished. The wall was blank again. No Lucien, no answers, only silence. By dawn, exhaustion and fear had settled deep in her bones. She needed proof, something rational, something human. So she did the only thing that made sense. She found Dr. Mira Voss. Dr. Voss was a specialist in deep regression therapy and neural memory reconstruction, a woman whose research danced dangerously close to what most called forbidden neuroscience. Her private lab, hidden beneath a university annex, was lined with black soundproofing panels and glass walls that seemed to swallow sound itself. Mira studied Ilara with calm curiosity as the story spilled out. The stranger, the ring, the mark, the glowing door. When Ilara showed her wrist, Mira's eyes sharpened. That's not a burn, she murmured. That's a sigil, ancient, pre-linguistic. It reacts to neural stress patterns. Ilara frowned. So you believe me? Mira smiled faintly. Let's find out. Minutes later, Ilara lay back on the reclined chair in the silent room, a chamber sealed tight against all external sound. Electrodes mapped her brain. A low hum pulsed through the air as Mira's voice echoed through the speakers. Breathe, Ilara. Let your consciousness drift backward. We're tracing the origin of the symbol. Wherever it comes from, you'll see it. Darkness washed over her. Her breathing slowed. Time unraveled. At first she saw flashes. Her childhood bedroom, the locked box, the diner where Lucian appeared. Then, deeper, torches flickering against stone walls, an altar, hands bound in crimson thread, her own voice reciting a vow she didn't remember learning. And then silence. The air shifted. She was no longer in her body, no longer in the lab, but standing in a vast, dim chamber filled with mirrors. Her reflection stared back at her from every direction, multiplying endlessly. Except, one of them moved on its own. Ilara stepped closer to the nearest mirror. The reflection smiled, but she hadn't. Its eyes were colder, sharper. Its mark burned brighter. Who are you? Ilara whispered. Her reflection tilted its head. The one who remembers, it said softly. The one you buried. Ilara's breath caught. The voice. It was hers, and yet not. This isn't real, she said, backing away. The reflection stepped closer to the glass, its movements fluid, predatory. Oh, it's real, it murmured. He told you you broke the promise, but he didn't tell you why. Ilara's chest tightened. What do you mean? The reflection smiled wider. He's not here to save you. He's here to finish what he started. The sound of cracking glass filled the room. The mirror splintered from the center, spider webs of light stretching outward. Ilara stumbled back. But the reflection didn't. It reached through the fracture, fingers of light and shadow slipping past the glass. "Elara!" Mira's distant voice broke through the static. "Wake up. Your brainwaves are spiking." Too late. The reflection's hand touched her chest and the world inverted. Elara screamed, not in fear but in recognition. Memories flooded in. The ancient ritual, the door of light, Lucian's face bathed in fire. Then everything went silent again. Elara gasped awake in the silent room, but Mira was gone. The lab was empty, lights flickering. And on the mirror across from her chair, written in what looked like blood, were 6 chilling words. "I let you out too soon." Elara's scream echoed through the silent room, bouncing off glass and metal until it died into a trembling whisper. The lab was deserted. Dr. Mira Voss's chair sat overturned, her headset dangling from a wire, still humming faintly. The mirror before Elara pulsed once, like a living thing taking a slow, deliberate breath, and then went still. "Mira?" Elara's voice cracked. "Where are you?" No answer. Only static from the console. She staggered toward the control panel and pressed the playback button. The monitors flickered, replaying the last 2 minutes of the regression session. Elara saw herself thrashing, screaming. But Mira didn't intervene. Instead, the footage showed her walking toward the mirror, calm, almost entranced. "Mira, what are you doing?" Elara whispered, heart hammering. The doctor reached out, touched the mirror's surface, and it rippled. Her reflection reached back, and with one step forward, Mira vanished into it, leaving nothing behind but a faint shimmer and that sentence scrawled in red. "I let you out too soon." Elara stumbled back from the screen. "No, this isn't possible." That's when she heard it. A low, familiar voice behind her. "It's not only possible," said Lucien, his tone strained. "It's the beginning of the reversal." She spun around. He stood there, but something was different. The quiet power he carried before was fading. His glow dimmed. His presence fractured. "What's happening to you?" Elara asked. Lucien's hand trembled as he reached for the wall to steady himself. "The door has shifted. The energy that sustains me comes from balance, and now that balance is breaking. When the reflection touched you, something ancient reversed." "Reversed what?" He looked up, his eyes darker now, almost human. "Our bond, the Watcher's chain. You're becoming what I once was." Her stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" Lucian's gaze was heavy with regret. "It means you're starting to hear them. The souls I've guided, the ones bound between lifetimes. They're fragments of those who crossed too soon. You've opened yourself to their voices." As if on cue, a whisper slithered through the air. Then another. Dozens. Overlapping. Pleading. Accusing. "Elara," one voice hissed. "Help us," cried another. "He lied to you," said a third, sharper, echoing through her skull. She clutched her head, the noise unbearable. "Stop, stop. Make it stop." Lucian reached for her, but his hand phased through her shoulder like mist. His form was unraveling. "I can't," he said weakly. "They're drawn to you now. You opened the path." Her vision spun. The world flickered between the lab and a vast, starless void. The whispers grew coherent, a choir of memories bleeding through her mind. "Lysandra," one voice called. The others hushed. The name sliced through her like lightning. "What did you say?" she gasped. "Your real name," the voice continued, soft, melodic, but laced with venom. "You are not Elara. You are Lysandra, the one who cursed him." Lucian's eyes widened, his fading glow flaring for a heartbeat. "Don't listen," he began, but Elara staggered back, eyes wide with terror and disbelief. "Cursed you? What are they talking about?" Lucian reached toward her again, his outline flickering, breaking apart like static. "You weren't just the one who broke the vow," he said, voice trembling. You created it. Before she could respond, the mirrors in the room shattered all at once. Shards hung suspended in the air, each reflecting a different version of her face, some crying, some smiling, some whispering. The voices converged into one unified whisper that crawled up her spine. Welcome back, Lysandra. The curse is waking. And so are we. The last shard fell, slicing the silence. And in its reflection, Lucian was gone. Only her own eyes stared back, glowing faintly with his fading light. The shards of the mirror hovered in the air like frozen stars, each reflecting a different version of her. Ilara, Lysandra, the sinner, the savior. The voices that had filled the room now fell eerily silent. The last whisper still echoed through her mind. Welcome back, Lysandra. Her knees buckled. She fell to the floor, gripping the edge of the console for balance. Lysandra. That name. Why does it feel like it belongs to someone I hate and someone I love? The air shifted, thickened. For a moment, the world bent around her and she wasn't in the lab anymore. She stood in a vast marble courtyard beneath a blood-red sky. Black banners rippled in the wind, and at the far end, Lucien knelt, bound by chains that glowed with celestial fire. Around him, cloaked figures chanted in a forgotten tongue. Her heart pounded as she realized she stood among them. She looked down at her hands, glowing, trembling, marked with the same sigil she bore now. Her voice, calm, commanding, cut through the chant. By my word and by my will I bind thee, Lucian the Watcher, between the veil of worlds. Let no mortal nor divine free thee, until my soul commands it. Lucien lifted his head. His eyes weren't angry. They were sorrowful. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. You're damning us both. I'm saving our world, her past self answered coldly. You crossed the boundary. You broke the law of souls. The chains flared, burning into his skin. You've always mistaken duty for mercy, he whispered, and love for power. Lysandra turned away, and the moment she did, the sky cracked open like glass, swallowing them both in a vortex of light and ash. Ilara screamed and stumbled backward into the present, gasping for breath, her body slick with sweat. The vision lingered like a scar in her mind, too vivid to be imagination. Lucian had said she broke the vow, but the truth was worse. She created it. She had cursed him, locked him in a limbo between worlds, and each time she was reborn, he was forced to find her again. A cruel loop of love and punishment. Now she understood why his eyes always held sorrow, not malice. Why he looked at her like a man watching the past repeat itself. But this time, something was different. The voices in her head had gone quiet, all except one. A single whisper, gentle yet urgent. He's fading, Lysandra. If he vanishes before the moon's turn, the breach will consume both worlds. She pressed a trembling hand against her chest. The mark on her wrist pulsed faster, glowing with a rhythm that wasn't hers, his. Their bond was reversing, their fates inverting. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking the silence. No caller ID. She hesitated, then answered. Ilara, the voice said, deep, distant, distorted. You've gone too far. Lucien? She whispered. No, came the reply. He's trapped again. You did this, and you'll do it again, unless you end it. The line went dead. The lights flickered, and one of the mirror shards on the floor began to move, sliding toward her like drawn by invisible hands. In its surface, she saw not her reflection, but Lucian, chained once more, reaching out. Find me. His voice echoed faintly through the glass. Before the moon resets the curse. She pressed her palm to the shard, tears blurring her vision. I remember now, she whispered. I remember everything. The mirror shattered again, but this time it didn't fall. The fragments hung mid-air, swirling into a vortex of light. Her mark flared bright gold, and a voice, her own from the past, whispered from the void, "You were never meant to remember this soon." The room exploded into light as the vortex opened, swallowing sound, color, and gravity itself. Ilara tried to pull away, but the mark on her wrist pulsed like a heartbeat gone mad, a pulse that wasn't hers but Lucian's. The mirrors spun around her like shards of time, each one flashing an image of their lives together, lifetimes of love and betrayal, promises and ruin. Then the world went black. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the silent room. The air was thick and shimmering, the ground a fractured reflection of stars and shadows. Above her stretched a sky that wasn't a sky at all, an endless expanse of broken light where whispers lived. This was the breach, the wound between worlds. "Ilara," a voice murmured behind her. She turned sharply. Lucian stood there, or what was left of him. His form flickered between flesh and light, like he was half erased. "Where are we?" she whispered. "The place between endings," he said softly. "This is where the curse bleeds into both worlds. When you remembered, the breach began to reopen." Ilara took a step closer. "Then we can close it. Tell me how." He hesitated, gaze falling to the glowing mark on her wrist. "It's already begun feeding." "Feeding?" Lucian's eyes darkened. Around them, the air began to ripple, shapes emerging from the haze, shadowed figures, hollow-eyed, drifting closer. "Their memories given hunger," he said grimly. "The remnants of what the breach consumes. Every secret, every silence, every forgotten moment becomes their feast." As the figures approached, she heard them whispering pieces of her life, her fears, her doubts, her regrets. "You never believed you deserved peace," one hissed. "You thought love was penance," another echoed. Lucian raised a hand, and a barrier of light rippled out, pushing the shadows back for now, but it weakened with each pulse. "They're getting stronger," he said through clenched teeth. Ilara's voice trembled. "Then tell me how to stop this." Lucian looked up, his expression filled with sorrow. "You can't destroy the breach. You can only seal it, by denying the force that opened it." She frowned. "What force?" "Love," he said simply. Her heart twisted. "That doesn't make sense. Love isn't destruction." "For mortals, no," Lucian replied. "But between a watcher and a soul bound by vow, love breaks the order. It's what caused the first fracture. It's what bound us together, and what cursed us both." She stepped back, shaking her head. "So you're saying, if I stop loving you, it closes the breach?" Lucian's form flickered again, almost transparent now. "If you can let go of me truly, completely, the worlds will realign. I'll fade, and balance will be restored." Her breath caught. "You're asking me to erase you. I'm asking you to save everything else." The shadows crept closer again, feeding on her hesitation. Her heartbeat thundered. She wanted to argue, to deny it. But deep down, the bond pulsing between them told her he was right. Tears burned in her eyes. "Lucienne, He reached out, his fading hand cupping her cheek like a memory given form. "You've carried the curse of Lysandra long enough," he whispered. "The only way to end it is to undo what began it." Ilara's tears fell onto his spectral hand, vanishing before they touched him. "I can't unlove you," she said. "Not even if it saves the world." He smiled faintly. Heartbreak and acceptance in one. "That's exactly what I need you to do." The ground beneath them cracked open, spilling white fire as the shadows screamed. The barrier shattered, and Lucian's form disintegrated into light, his voice echoing through the collapsing void. "Remember me only long enough to forget me." The white fire faded into a dull silver glow. Ilara stood at the edge of the fractured plane, the breach pulsing faintly behind her. Lucian's light had vanished into the void, leaving behind only silence and the echo of his last words. Remember me only long enough to forget me. But forgetting him wasn't peace. It was agony. She stumbled through the collapsing dreamscape until the world reassembled around her. The city, the cold air, the faint hum of traffic. Everything looked the same, but it wasn't. The colors felt muted. The air felt thinner. Her wrist still burned with the fading mark. When she reached her apartment, her phone buzzed. A message from her best friend, Mara. Relief flickered for a second, but when she opened the text, her stomach dropped. Who is this? Ilara froze. The contact name was gone, replaced with an unknown number. The entire message thread had been erased. She called, desperate. And when Mara's voice answered, it was polite, distant. Sorry, who did you say you were? Panic surged through her. She looked around her apartment. Photos on the wall were still there. But something was wrong. In one picture, her face was slightly faded. In another, she was gone entirely, just a hand resting on empty air. Lucian's words returned to her mind like a curse. If you let go of me, the worlds will realign. She whispered to the empty room. You didn't tell me it would take me with it. That night, she searched the hidden forum again, hoping for answers. The site was still there, but her posts were gone. Her username no longer existed. Threads that once mentioned Ilara Voss were blank. The only remaining message was from an anonymous user. You're doing it. Keep going. Don't stop until everything forgets. Her pulse raced. No, she breathed. No, this isn't saving the world. This is erasing it. But as the hours passed, she noticed the change. The city outside her window was calmer. The flickers of shadow had stopped. The breach's presence was fading. The cost was working. Still, she couldn't help but wonder. Who was she saving it for if no one would remember she existed? By dawn, she could no longer see her reflection clearly. Her outline was blurred, her features soft, as though her very presence offended the world's memory. Her last act of rebellion was simple. She took a photo, a proof. Standing by her window, light spilling through the blinds, she smiled faintly into the lens. If the world forgets, she whispered, let this remember. Hours later, as she walked the streets, people brushed past her like she was air. Her name no longer opened her bank account. Her apartment door didn't recognize her voice. Her existence had become a ghost threaded through reality. By evening, she returned home, trembling. She opened her phone and stared at the photo she'd taken that morning. Her proof. At first, the image looked perfect. Then the pixels began to shimmer. Her outline wavered and vanished. The photo adjusted itself, leaving behind only sunlight streaming through an empty room. Her phone screen flickered. One final message appearing beneath the image, written in Lucian's voice. You were never meant to disappear, Lysandra. You were meant to become the door. The light from the photo spilled across her face, and she felt the pull again, not into memory, but into somewhere else. The hum of the old ceiling fan circled endlessly above her. The same cracked vinyl seat. The same faint smell of coffee and rain. Ilara blinked, dazed. Her hand was wrapped around a cup of untouched tea, steam frozen mid-curl, as if the air itself had forgotten how to move. Across from her sat Lucian. His eyes, once endless with confidence, now flickered with something she'd never seen in him before. Fear. Where are we? She whispered, her voice barely carrying across the still air. Lucian's lips parted, but the words came slow, almost reluctant. The place between, he said. The last echo before time remembers us. The diner lights dimmed, shadows stretching long and thin across the tiled floor. Outside the window, nothing existed. No city, no sky. Only a gray void trembling like a heartbeat that refused to fade. Ilara's pulse quickened. You said I was becoming the door. she murmured. Is this inside me? He looked down, guilt carving through the calm mask he once wore. You were never supposed to open it. You were meant to seal it. But when you erased yourself, he trailed off, his voice cracking. You took the world's memory with you. Now this, he gestured around them, is all that's left of time trying to remember. The words hit her like glass shattering in her chest. She was the lock and the key. Every breath she took could reshape what was left. Her hand trembled as she touched the table. The spoon rippled. For a heartbeat, she saw fragments of places flicker in the reflection. Her city, Mara's laughter, the photo she'd erased. Everything she'd lost existed here, fragmented, suspended between remembering and vanishing. Lucian reached across the table, his voice almost pleading. We can fix this, Ilara. But we have to move carefully. One wrong thought, one wrong choice, and the entire timeline collapses. She looked at him, her mind torn between fury and longing. Why didn't you tell me this would happen? His jaw tightened. Because if you knew the truth, you'd never have chosen to forget. The walls trembled. The diner lights flickered again, as if some unseen force was straining against their fragile bubble of existence. Then a strange sound echoed, not from within the room, but from outside the void itself. A deep, resonant pulse that made her bones hum. Lucian's expression turned to dread. They found us. Who? The ones who were never meant to wake. The air grew colder. The gray beyond the windows darkened, thickening into shapes, silhouettes pressing against the glass, whispering in unison. Words she couldn't understand clawed through her thoughts. Ilara's mark burned again, brighter than ever before. The diner clock began to tick backward, each second pulling at her mind, unraveling memories she didn't know she still had. Lucian stood, eyes scanning the room. We have to go, he hissed. Now. She stood too, heart pounding, but as she reached for him, the spoon on the table suddenly stilled. The air split. A third voice, calm, ancient and filled with authority, came from behind them. It didn't echo. It commanded. Your time's up, the voice said. Both of you. Ilara turned slowly. Standing in the doorway was a woman in black, her eyes like fractured mirrors, each reflecting a different moment in Ilara's life. And in every reflection, she was dead. Lucian whispered in terror, It's the keeper of lost time. She's come to erase what's left of us. And then the clock above the counter stopped ticking. Because time, finally, had caught up. Ilara's breath came shallow, fogging the air between her and the figure who had emerged from the doorway. The diner trembled with every word the keeper spoke, as though the walls themselves remembered her power. Lucian, the keeper said, her voice like silk over steel, watcher bound by curse and mercy, and Lysandra, the soul who defied silence. You have reached the edge of your allotted time. One must end, or the breach will consume both realms. Lucian stepped protectively in front of Ilara, though his hands trembled. Keeper, she doesn't belong to this choice. I was the one who failed the oath. You both did, the keeper interrupted, her tone cutting through him like glass. Every lifetime, the same song, the same hunger for redemption, the same collapse. This time you tried to rewrite the pattern. You broke time itself. Ilara's pulse pounded in her ears. So that's it? After everything, I either die or let him vanish again? No, the keeper said. You both die if no choice is made. The balance demands one silence for another. The word silence struck Ilara deeper than she expected. It wasn't peace she'd wanted all along. It was escape. Escape from memories, from destiny, from the version of herself she'd buried beneath new names and new lives. Silence had been her sanctuary, but also her prison. She looked at Lucian. His face, weary, ancient, tender, carried centuries of waiting. You knew this would happen, she said softly. He nodded, eyes glistening. The moment you remembered, the cycle started collapsing. You were never meant to remember this soon. I was supposed to guide you to the end, not through it. Her chest ached, torn between fury and longing. You lied to me. I protected you, he whispered. You were the curse and the cure. You always were. The diner's lights flickered again. The clock reversed, its hands spinning faster now, dragging pieces of the room backward. Spoons refilling, steam rising in reverse, her heartbeat sinking with the distortion. The keeper's reflection flickered in every window pane, her voice growing louder, vibrating through the glass. Decide, Lysandra. Your hesitation fractures the seam. Choose who will remain and who will be unmade. Ilara's knees weakened. All the lives she'd lived, all the years Lucian had found her and lost her again, flashed behind her eyes. The pain, the longing, the silence. She turned to him, her throat tight. What if the only way to end it is to end us both? Lucian's expression faltered, shock, then understanding. Ilara. She took a slow step toward him. If this curse is built on our bond, then breaking it means breaking us. Not one or the other. Both. The keeper's voice softened, almost sad. To end both is to erase everything you've ever touched, every lifetime, every thread. You will not even be remembered as ghosts. Tears traced down Ilara's cheeks. Then maybe silence isn't punishment. Maybe it's mercy. Lucian's hand trembled as she reached for it. The diner shook violently now, cups falling, lights bursting in sparks of frozen light. The void outside bled with color, reality collapsing inward like a lung exhaling for the last time. Lucian whispered, "You don't have to do this." She looked into his eyes, endless, sorrowful, and still full of love. "No," she said quietly. "We do it together." Ilara took Lucian's hand, and as their fingers intertwined, the mark on her wrist flared one final time, white, blinding, consuming the entire diner. Her last whisper echoed through the collapsing silence. "Then let's end this together." The world inverted, and everything went still. The diner door chimed softly. That same familiar note, a sound too ordinary to belong to eternity. The scent of rain drifted in from the empty street outside. A quiet hum filled the air, the kind that lives between seconds, like the world was waiting for someone to remember how to move. Lucian sat alone at the table by the window, the same table where everything had ended. His eyes were tired, his hands motionless around a cup of untouched coffee. The faintest trace of sorrow lined his face, the kind that centuries couldn't heal. Outside, time no longer pulsed with the same rhythm. The streets shimmered faintly, rippling like a memory trying to stay real. He'd been here before. He'd been here forever. The last thing he remembered was Ilara's voice. "Then let's end this together." They had taken the leap, chosen oblivion over separation. He had expected silence, the final, merciful kind. Yet here he was again, trapped in the rhythm of the same morning, the same light, the same melody of rain tapping softly against the glass. Lucian glanced at the empty seat across from him. "You kept your promise," he murmured, voice breaking. "You ended it. Just not for me." Then, the door chimed again. He looked up. A woman stepped in, the soft glow of the streetlights tracing her silhouette. Her steps were slow, deliberate, as though she already knew this place. She brushed her hand against the counter, pausing for a heartbeat before her eyes met his. For a moment, time stopped entirely. She wasn't Ilara. The face was different, her hair a deeper shade, her voice unfamiliar. But something within her gaze struck him like lightning. Ancient recognition. The kind that didn't need names to remember. She approached his table with quiet confidence, sliding into the seat across from him. the very place where the story had first begun. Lucian's pulse faltered. "I'm sorry, miss," he began, the practiced words trembling. "I think you have the wrong—" Then he saw it. On her wrist, faint but unmistakable, the mark. The same ancient sigil that had once burned upon Alara's skin. His voice caught in his throat. "That symbol. Where did you—" She smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips that sent a chill through him. "I don't know," she said softly, tracing the mark with her fingertip. "But when I woke up this morning, I knew I had to come here. I knew I'd find you." Lucian stared, time folding in on itself around them. The clock behind the counter ticked forward once, and then backward. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The woman tilted her head, eyes glimmering with something both innocent and ancient. "Maybe someone you used to know," she said. "Or maybe—" She leaned forward, her gaze locking onto his. "Someone who remembers everything you've forgotten." He froze. The air around them shimmered, the same distortion that had once heralded the breach. But this time, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning rewritten. She smiled, her tone playful yet threaded with fate itself. "Mind if I join you?" Lucian's breath hitched. The same words he had once spoken to her. The cycle had turned, but the roles had reversed. Outside, the world began to hum again, color bleeding back into the void. The city beyond the window was returning, yet subtly different, reshaped by choice, not destiny. Lucien looked at her, this stranger with Alara's soul-indifferent skin, and for the first time in centuries he didn't know what would happen next. As she reached for her cup, the mark on her wrist flared gold, and for a fleeting instant, Lucian's reflection appeared inside her eyes, smiling back at him. Then she whispered softly, like a secret between worlds, "This time I'm the one who's been looking for you." The door chimed once more, the sound looping infinitely, and time, ever patient, began its next story.